Howdy ladies and gents, my name is Thom Gibson and welcome to a 3-part series I am doing called The Best Business Books to Influence Your Teaching. In today's episode, we are looking at Drive by Dan Pink. The main premise of Drive is what drives people, what motivates people. How do we motivate people with intrinsic motivations rather than extrinsic motivations, like saying, do this and you'll get this reward, or do this or I'll punish you. Dan Pink said the 3 things that drive internal motivation are a sense of autonomy in what you're doing, a sense of purpose in what you're doing, and the pursuit of mastery over what you're doing. I've tried to incorporate each of those things into my classroom in various ways. With autonomy in my classroom, students are more motivated to work when they have choice in what they do and how they do it and when they do it. So as much as I can, I try to give students those options. It can be even as simple as having a work time in class where students can choose who they want to work with and work wherever they want in the classroom. I frame it in my classroom as a privilege to be able to do that, and as long as students are staying on task, they can continue to work with who they want and where they want, whether it's in their regular desk or in the back or on the standing table or under their desk. But if they are off task and struggling to complete work, then they have to return to their seat or separate from the person that they're working with. If students have several tasks to do, I give them the freedom to work on the ones that they want to work on first. They're not getting full autonomy, but as much autonomy as I can give them, I'm trying to give them so that they're a little bit more motivated to work. As far as bringing purpose into what they're doing to give them motivation, project-based learning has been really helpful in this. When I think about my robotics class, learning certain skills so that they can be contributed to the larger project of what you're accomplishing has a greater purpose. So in robotics, just having a lesson about functions and variables by themselves is not as motivating as having a task where they need to get the robot to do a certain thing, and functions and variables will actually make that thing a lot easier to do, particularly when competition is involved. In math class, I like these things called 3-act problems that were popularized by Dan Meyer, where instead of giving a student a problem with all the information in it and it's just this big massive block of text that they have to sift through, I present them with a picture or a video or an idea. And I don't really give them much of the information that they would need, and I don't even tell them exactly what problem they're solving right off the bat. For example, there is one video of a guy drinking 5 different energy drinks on 5 different days. I asked the students what they think about the video, which generally leads to the question, which drink was the strongest? We talk about what does strongest mean, leading to conversations about caffeine concentration. And I asked the students, well, what would you need to know to find the caffeine concentration? Like, well, we need to know how many ounces were in each drink, and we also need to know the milligrams of caffeine that were in each drink. Sometimes they ask for information that maybe they don't need, and I ask, is there any information on this list that you don't need? And they argue and debate about that. And by the time they get to the point where they have the information that they need to find the caffeine concentration of each thing, and we're actually trying to learn about unit rate, which is exactly what this is, they're totally bought into the actual purpose of figuring this out and solving this, because now they're invested. There's a little bit more purpose behind this besides just solving a problem that I've given them all the information, and it feels more meaningful. It feels more real to life of the type of math that we do as people, not necessarily word problems that give us all the information that we need right off the bat, and we don't have to think about what's needed and what's not. And the third thing that he says drives intrinsic motivation is a desire for mastery over a skill. The idea that some things are just worth doing for the sake of getting better at doing them. This one has probably been the hardest to actually implement in my class, but ways that I've begun to incorporate this pursuit of mastery. So I try the soft sell challenge, where in robotics, for example, there are videos on how to do a lot of the types of projects that we're doing in that class. I tell students there are plenty of videos that show you how to do this. If you want to give yourself a little bit of the extra challenge to see if you can figure it out without the videos, you're free to do so. And it's surprising how many kids are like, yeah, I actually want to see if I can figure this out before I just go look for the answer, because it's almost like I want to test my abilities to solve these types of problems. In math class, it's a little bit on the similar lines, where I will try to present some kind of pattern to students and ask them, what patterns are you noticing here, and how can we expand this sequence or these patterns, and based on what we have already, what do you think the next level of this would be? I've done this with exponents, where I show what the positive exponents are down to the negative exponents and see what kind of patterns students are seeing. And there's this joy and the satisfaction of just figuring it out, just finding the pattern and putting pieces together and seeing how things work work together, and enjoying math for its own sake, getting better at math, wanting to master a skill. It's hard to find that for every lesson or even every unit sometimes, but I'm always trying to ask myself, how can I get them to be curious about this and want to learn it for its own sake? Also, a side note with this book, Dan Pink actually talks about 20% time, which ended up being a pretty big push in education after this book came out, of how can we give kids time to work on whatever it is they want to work on? How can we give them 20% of our class time to do that? 20% of time is a lot for most teachers, but something my school does is called Project Week. And I'll link to a video in the description about how we do that and what that looks like. And that incorporates all of this, the autonomy, the purpose, and the mastery into some kind of project-based learning of the students' choice. That is one of the best business books that I think can influence your teaching and how it's influenced my teaching. Dan Pink did an excellent TED Talk on all of these things that I'll link below. It's one of those ones where someone's animating what he says, and it's pretty engaging and worth the watch. This is part one of a 3-part series called The Best Business Books to Influence Your Teaching. If you'd like to stay in the loop and find out when the next couple ones come out, then go ahead and hit subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like to be notified immediately the moment the video comes out. The whole goal of my channel is to help teachers do innovative work in the classroom. And with this video series, I think we can learn a lot about innovation in the classroom from what the world of business is doing. My name is Thom Gibson. I hope you learned something today, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.